you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Tuesday, January 7th. I'd like to start by wishing my mother a very, very happy 80th birthday. Tanti auguri, mama. Tanti auguri. All right. Got that out of the way, and I'm happy that I did. The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Also brought to you in part by, look at that fridge behind me, Bittt Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for chilly winter days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. It's ultra light and ultra refreshing. Playground. The World Cup of Cards returns to Playground from January 22nd to February 2nd with over 900,000 in guarantees spread out over 16 championship ring events. Highlights include a 400,000 guaranteed multi-day main event and multi-day PG 300 mega stock event with $150,000 guaranteed. The World Cup of Cards at Playground as of January 22nd. Visit playground.ca for more details. All right. Tonight's a big night in the National Hockey League. And in all transparency, this podcast is being recorded just a little bit earlier. Actually, the games have started, but they're not over yet. So just before some of these games are over, and a lot of teams battling for a playoff position with the Canadiens or a wild card spot are in action tonight. The Tampa Bay Lightning are in action. The Boston Bruins are in action. Ottawa's in action. Detroit's in action. Columbus in action. Pittsburgh's in action. Philadelphia's in action. The Rangers are in action. You name it, they're all in action tonight. So I won't be able to have the results for you because, once again, it's recorded a little bit earlier for convenience for myself tonight and for Eric Engels of Sportsnet and Sportsnet.ca. Eric is a regular collaborator on Mondays, but he couldn't make it yesterday because, of course, he was working the Canadiens game for Sportsnet. So without further ado, let me bring him in. Eric Engels, what's going on?
What's up, man? Well, first of all, what's your mom's name?
Lena.
Lena. Very happy birthday to Lena. I have no doubt. First of all, 80. What an incredible milestone. And second, I hope she's healthy and happy. She must be a superhero for having been your mom. She's she's a very special lady. I know that she's famous, radio famous.
Yes.
And
Appelle ma mère. Appelle ma mère.
Yeah. Does she watch all your podcasts?
She does she watch all of them live? No. But she watches. She watches. She got herself an iPad a couple of years ago. And she got herself into Instagram and into Facebook and all that stuff. And so she watches and she reads some of the comments. She takes a look at who likes and who doesn't like. And listen, I'm not so sure she knows how to read them, but a little bits and pieces here and there. But anyway, she supports like every mother does. So it's much appreciated. All right. Okay. Wow. I guess I should know where to start. I don't really know where to start except for what's going on right now is pretty awesome. It's very impressive. There's a lot of reasons why it's happening. Marty St. has become the best version of himself as a coach. I think he has learned a lot. That coaching performance on Saturday night in particular, I thought, even though they won a big game in Florida and they won a big game in Tampa and they won a big game in Vegas, I was really impressed with the way the Canadiens played the Colorado Avalanche on Saturday night. Travel to Chicago, play in Chicago, 40 shots, lose in Chicago, travel from Chicago to Colorado, get in at probably 2:30 in the morning, play the Avalanche, who had won a lot of games, who had scored a lot of goals, play them at home on a Saturday night, a team that had never lost a game after when they were in the lead after 40 minutes. They have the lead on you. You've limited Rantanen and McKinnon to a point each on the power play. You're limited to 1 goal. You only give up 23 shots. You end up tying the game. You bring it to overtime. You end up winning it in a shootout. It was the last game of a long road trip. Guys could have packed it in if they wanted to. As Brian Wilde said from Global TV Montreal, it almost felt going in like it was a scheduled loss for a lot of people looking at it, saying, all right, this one here, they're going to lose. I love that he shortened his bench. He had Jake Evans playing with Suzuki and Caufield. Slavkovsky wasn't going that night. He said, you're sitting. Even some guys that were going, but were going a little bit less, he said to them, you know what? I'm going with my guys that are going to be able to win the hockey game. At one point, he talked about hard coaching. There were some hard decisions to make in that game. He made them. His team is obviously playing for him. They're obviously playing for each other. Some of the important players on this team are playing their best hockey. The lines have found an identity. There's stability on defense. The goaltending situation has been rectified. Please add on, because I know you can, but it's...
I don't know if we have anything else to talk about. I think you nailed it all.
Yeah.
No, I think the dumbest narrative of the last week was this whole, as soon as they lost to Chicago, I can't believe this is the team they lose to. I mean, they had 40 shots on net in the game. Arvid Soderblom stood on his head. They had over 25 scoring chances, about 18 of which were grade A. Like, you play that game 10 times, they win it not only 9 times, but by like 4 goals. I don't think it was the end of the world that they lost that game. I also agree it would have been a scheduled loss in Colorado, and they came out with an incredible effort. And then, the back-to-backs, I know it seems really, really difficult, and it is. I'm not taking anything away from it, especially when you're going back-to-back from Central Time in Chicago, landing, probably close to the early hours of the morning. Even if you're landing at a reasonable hour, you're getting to sleep in the early hours of the morning. And because they're turning around to Mountain Time in Colorado and playing at altitude, they are playing in less than 24 hours because they're dropping back another hour. So
yeah,
that was like the gutsiest win of their season, without question. And I thought the way Marty handled it was fantastic. And of course, everybody points at Slavkovsky and they point at Pizzetta, who's going to play about 4 minutes, and they're not going to trust him in the third period after 2 minutes in. And he also, because he had 2 forwards that he decided that was it for their night, he had to park Emil Heineman because he just didn't have a line to play him on. And I'm sure he had a talk with Heineman and said, that it's nothing to do with you, buddy, but I'm rolling these 3 lines and we're going to go steal this game and walk away with another win. And they did. He's grown a lot as a coach, no doubt. It's a huge storyline. I also think, though, he's coaching for the moment. And when I say that, I mean that like the Canadiens are actually ready for what he's doing with them. And I think Marty was always waiting for this type of opportunity. Like, we've had so many of those discussions where we ask him, when is this going to turn around? He goes, I don't know, but when it does, his answers. You guys have all heard them by now, but I don't want to regurgitate them and get them wrong. But he's always had a sense of timing for when it would be the right time for him to push on certain levers and hit certain buttons. And I think the team has grown a lot, and it's good to see it happening in a winning environment, because for as much as you learn during the losing times, and I would tell you right now, the Canadiens are not where they are right now, if not for what they went through at the beginning of the season. I think the growth is accelerated in winning times, and it's a breath of fresh air in Montreal. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Like, 2.5 years, I'm sure you're feeling it too, Tony.
Yeah.
Just the general vibe around the city. It's a special place, and the players get reminded of that, and I think that's a nice thing too.
Look, this is one of the things where we can go with tonight. We can talk about Nick Suzuki, who was the hero again last night in overtime. Look, I think I've counted 3 overtime winners for Suzuki. I don't even know if it's 4 or whatever. But anyway, it just seems like every time they go to overtime, if they do score, it seems like it's him. It's a great quality to have, because that quality there of scoring in overtime, they call that clutch, okay? So he's obviously clutch in overtime for the Montreal Canadiens. I said last year, and I stuck with it, and I took a lot of heat, and there's a lot of people that had different opinions, and that's okay. Sports is a question of opinions, and I love that. I respect everyone's opinion. But I felt strongly last year that Nick Suzuki was, without a doubt, a number one centerman in the National Hockey League, and there were a bunch of statistics that supported it. He was top 15 among centermen in goals. He was top 15 among centermen in points. He was top 15 among all forwards with possession in the offensive zone. There were all kinds of analytics that supported him being a great 200-foot player. And when Suzuki had some games this year which were a little lackluster or laborious, and he had a couple, I would say, in the first month of the season where he didn't look as consistent as maybe he did in the past couple of years. October was a difficult month for the Canadiens. They got obliterated like 5 times. I think we could talk about that. So a lot of people started to question once again if Nick Suzuki was a number one centerman. Today, if you take a look at the stats right now for centermen in the National Hockey League, and you take a look at goals for centermen in the National Hockey League, Nick Suzuki is in the top. I'm trying to see where he's in the top, but Nick Suzuki, let's just say points. Okay, let's say points. Nick Suzuki's 13th in the National Hockey League. 13th in the National Hockey League in points. And for among centers. Now, I want to stress this, okay? Think about this for a second, okay? In that top 13, there's Sam Reinhart, who plays right wing on the first line in Florida. And there's Martin Neshas, who plays right wing on the second line in Carolina. So they're put down as centermen, and they're not playing center. So going into tonight's games, he was 13th, but he's really 11th in points among centermen.
And how many guys are tied in there?
So he has 41 points. Crosby's got 42. Aho's got 43. Strome and Point have 45. Scheifele's got 46, Jack Hughes 48, and then Eichel's in the 50s, and Nathan McKinnon's running away with 66. Mind you, Connor McDavid has only played 36 games. He's got 12 points less than McKinnon, and he's played 5 games less than McKinnon. But
I don't even know why we give this subject oxygen. I don't think the debate over whether or not Nick is a number one center or not has any validity to it. And I'm a broken record on it. There's people that
still believe that he's not. There's people
that still believe the earth is flat. I mean, there's people that are stupid out there. It's not. There's nothing you could do about it. Maybe you should reframe the debate. Is Nick Suzuki one of the best centermen in the league, not just a number one?
Yeah.
Because based on the points and based on the fact that he played for a team that was getting shit kicked for the first, month and a half of the season, and he's still a plus on the season, if I'm not mistaken. He's a pretty strong 200-foot player. I don't know if I'd sit here and say he's one of the top 10 centers in the league, but I don't think he's far outside that. The debate as to whether or not he's a number one will always be dependent on people who view number one strictly as the Matthews McDavid profile.
Yeah.
Versus people who don't recognize the other profile of number one centers, the guys like Patrice Bergeron, who, he's always the guy we go to, and not just to compare Suzuki to. It's just there's 2 different types of number one centers. And
it's unfortunate that he's not going to be participating in the Four Nations tourney for Canada. It really is. And I understand that.
Is it?
Well, it's unfortunate for Nick.
Well, maybe it takes him to another level and he gets to the Olympics.
I hear you. I think he should be on the team is all I'm saying. And look, once again, everyone that's on that team they're all pretty good hockey players. Let's face it.
Yeah.
But I know Brad Marchand's got 15 goals, but at this stage of their careers, Nick Suzuki's a better hockey player than Brad Marchand. Let's be honest here. Who are we kidding?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I need to, if I'm in a 4-game tournament and I'm facing elimination and I need a guy on the ice that I really believe can make the difference, I'd stack Brad Marchand up up against Nick Suzuki. If I'm looking at an 82-game season and a full playoff run, I'm probably taking Suzuki at this point of their career, right? And that's why Brad Marchand was locked into that team as one of the top 6 guys going there. So
I think that was a mistake.
Well, we'll find out. We're going to find out in a few months, in less than a month. We're finding out in exactly a month, I think.
I think it starts February 12th.
Okay.
But yeah,
so
whatever it is.
5 weeks. Got it.
Okay. So anyway,
I haven't looked. By the way, I'm covering that whole tournament, Montreal
Really?
and Boston, and I have not even looked that far ahead as to when those games are scheduled, because there is so much going on between now and then that I can't even think about Four Nations. Right?
Good for you that you get to go to Boston. I always love going to Boston. Boston's a fun city. It's a good city. It's a nice city. I like Boston. So anyway, we could put that whole debate to bed then, all right? That Nick Suzuki is not a number 1 centerman. If people still believe that, believe what you want. All the statistics say otherwise, okay? The statistics say he's a number 1 centerman.
Or you could just watch him play. I don't know.
I'm happy I said something a month ago. I said a lot of things a month ago. There's some things I'm not happy about. There's one thing I am happy about.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on this since the beginning. Lane Hutson's a star. You know, I've called him a superstar. Some people don't want to call him a superstar. I get it. Superstar it's a big word. It's up for debate. Being a star is not up for debate. He is top 5 in I don't know how many statistical categories for defensemen. Going into tonight's games, he was leading all rookies in points. Going into tonight's games, he was 7th in the National Hockey League for points. And you know what? Up until a couple of weeks ago, I heard people saying, yeah, you know what? The Canadiens should go out and get this player and that player. And you know what? They should trade Lane Hutson for him. Are you nuts? I said today earlier on BPM Sports on my radio show that if the Montreal Canadiens trade Lane Hutson in the next 6, 7, 8 years in his prime, I'm going to be the first member of sports media in Montreal to jump off the Champlain Bridge. That's it. I'm going to be on the front
how much
page.
You believe in the possibility of Lane Hutson getting traded?
I'm gonna be on the front page of the Journal de Montréal, animateur de sport, Cégep du Pont Champlain, déprimé parce que Lane Hutson a été échangé.
Listen,
that can't happen. Like it just can't.
If you're one of those Canadiens fans out there who's saving their money to go buy a jersey, and you're thinking to yourself, I really got to pick the player who's not going anywhere for the next little while. Like this guy's going to build a heck of a career, and I don't think he'll ever get traded, and he's going to end up signed long-term and end up with Lane Hutson's about as safe of a bet as you could possibly make. We'll see what happens when Demidov comes over here. But I think that was, if you're out there and you've been saving your money for a jersey, you can have faith that the name on the back of it, if it's Hutson, that thing's going to last.
I feel like buying one, and I'm 52 years old. I feel like putting Lane Hutson's jersey and framing it, and having it framed and putting it up there. I think I could have the guys at Unrivaled Memorabilia do it for me, and they could put it. I love. He always has that smile on his face. He's always in the mood to play hockey. He's always in the mood he wants the puck on his stick. He wants to be the best player on the ice. It almost seems like he's not fazed by moments. He doesn't feel pressure of situations. He just goes out there and he has so much fun playing the sport that he loves. And I know they all do, but it just seems to me that he does it more so than everyone else. And I'm sure they all love the game, but it just seems to me that he loves it more than everyone else. I'm sure they all love to play the game, but it just seems to me that he loves to play it so much more than everyone else, Eric. This guy was the steal of the draft once again. That 2022 draft year where the Canadiens drafted Slafkovsky first, going into tonight's games, the most points per game player of that entire draft class is Lane Hutson at .76 points.
Okay, so these are some of the things that I've said on your podcast. Okay?
Yes. And he was drafted 62nd overall.
It was about a year ago that I said to you, Slafkovsky is really coming, but ultimately the best player in this draft might have been drafted 62nd overall.
I remember when you told me that.
Another thing I said was Lane
that was
Hutson,
a big statement, and today you look like a genius.
When we went back to training camp, going back to rookie camp, you and I were talking, and I said, this kid is starting in the NHL as a star. There's zero question about that for me, and he will become a superstar. And I don't think he's there yet in terms of superstardom. It takes a long time to build that type of profile in this league. But when you start seeing his name attached to records that involve the names Brian Leach and Chris Chelios, and take your pick of like the greatest defenseman of all, Phil Housley, it's something to get excited about. For me, if you're a Canadiens fan, what you should be most excited about is A, what you were just talking about, the passion that he plays with, and B, it is watching a player get better by the day. You know, like you just see the maturity kicking in exponentially quickly. It's really been something to watch. It's very exciting. And Lane Hutson is not perfect. You know, he's going to have his nights where he's in trouble. He has been the cause of several goals against this season, but the people that like watch him and try to pick apart his defensive game and suggest that he's not a capable, great defenseman also, and that he won't mature into that because the metrics certainly don't show that at this point. Just keep watching because it's going to happen. And just one thing.
He's also been the catalyst in a lot of games, and he's also set up a ton of goals. And
no, the good is always going to outweigh the bad, and that's what it means to start as a star in the league. It's not even close. But there are areas where he can improve, and he will because he is clearly improving.
I'm going to say it. I think him and Suzuki are the two best players on the team. With all due respect to everyone on the team.
Well, yeah, I okay, I could take that. I can handle that. I think there's a lot of players kind of on equal footing on this team. But yes, I would agree with you. I think Nick Suzuki is the best player on this team, and I think Cole Caufield is probably the second best player on this team, and I think Lane Hutson has the potential to be the best player on this team in short order, if not for the fact that Ivan Demidov is on his way. And I honestly think when he comes in, he might be wearing that title very early on in his tenure. But the last thing I want to say about Lane,
go ahead, say it.
The last thing I want to say about Lane, you talked about his enthusiasm, okay? They are completely different personalities, but Lane has entered this room in the same way that Cole Caufield did in terms of the passion for the game, the desire to make the difference on every single shift. And like, honestly, Caufield gets so much attention for the goal scoring. Like, do you watch this what this guy is
become a really good player?
His play is unbelievable. First of all, his skill level is through the roof. His skating,
he too is clutch. When they need a big goal, he too is clutch.
I know, but it's always like, his shot and his goal scoring. His skating, his routes, his brain, the little moves that he makes to free himself up for space and then create plays for his line mates and get back into the empty. He's become such a good player. And but there's some real similarities in his passion for the game and Lane's passion for the game.
There's a lot of similarities in the way they play the game, too, and the way they think the game, the way they see the game. And I understand one's a forward and one's a defenseman. I get it. I also remember telling you something about Lane Hutson, and I told you very early on in the season, I said, Eric, he's got to be on the first wave of the power play. He's got to quarterback that power play. They got to put Mike Matheson on a second. And I was pretty vocal about it and very animated about it. You tried to calm me down by telling me, and rightfully so, that Mike Matheson had 62 points last year, and Mike Matheson picked up a lot of those points on the power play. And at the time that I was saying that, the Canadiens' power play was doing relatively well, and Mike Matheson had his share of assists on the power play as well. And I said, you're right. I just think, though, that he has certain elements to his game, certain things that he can bring, his creativity, his imagination. He's less predictable in the power play. I believe the power play will be better. And once again, ever since they put him on that first wave of the power play, I think the power play has gone to another level. Anthony Martineau of TVA Sports brought up something pretty cool last night, I thought. He showed the images of the Canadiens scoring the game-winning goal, and particularly zoomed in on Matheson, who was on the bench, who was not on the ice on the power play in overtime, because Marty St. went with Nick Suzuki, Cole Caufield, Lane Hutson, and Kirby Dach, and rightfully so, they delivered the game-winning goal in overtime. Like, Matheson's one of the first guy over the boards, and he's absolutely ecstatic, and just goes to show what a good team guy he is. If anyone,
Mike Matheson is all class.
He's an ace,
and not just because of that clip. Like, Mike Matheson will do anything for the team to win. And if people think he's sitting there, grinding his teeth over Lane Hutson taking over power play 1, no, he's sitting there saying, I'm going to go compete on power play 2 and make power play 2 better. And I have no issue with St. Louis slow rolling that decision, because ultimately what happened was the second unit found some confidence and some methodology that they could employ and score some goals with while Hutson was there. And in the switch being made with Dach and Matheson going to power play too, we've seen that unit be much more effective than it was at any point over the last couple of years. We all knew when you brought this up, Tony, and you were essentially singing the chorus of the entire Montreal Canadiens fan base who wants to see Hutson play on the first power play unit. And logically, it's not as if it wasn't going to happen. Of course it was. Like, it's just, it didn't need to happen as of game one for Lane Hutson in the NHL. Like, especially not when there's a player ahead of him in the lineup who's given so much to the Canadiens and produced on the power play at the level that Mike Matheson did. I can't remember the numbers specifically, but out of his 62 points, were 25 of them on the power play last year.
Probably even more. But yeah, something like that. Something like that.
Okay. So anyways, everybody got what they wanted in the end. And I don't think St. Louis cost the team much, because the Canadiens power play, even while Matheson was running the first unit this year, was very productive.
We got some audio clips. We have 2 of them from Kaiden Guhle. Let's play them.
Happened. I mean, I've been saying it for the past couple of weeks now. I've tried to get physicality more into my game now here, and trying to have that more consistent, and saw the opportunity to make a hit, and I saw a few tonight, and I took them. So just something that I've tried to kind of add into my game and have a little more consistency with. So
there's another one, I think, another Kaiden Guhle clip.
We got no quit right now, I think. Early on in the year, I think, down 3-1 in the second after, 60 minutes left in the second. I think the score might have been a little different, but we got no quit in this team right now, and so much confidence throughout the whole group. Everyone's feeling good, and it's an absolute blast to win. I think we're getting that feeling of what it's like now that we've won a few here in the past 10, 11 games. So I think everyone's just hungry right now, hungry for that feeling, and it's unbelievable right now. So.
Kaiden Guhle says that he wants to bring more physicality to the game. And I got to tell you, the way he started the first 10 minutes of that hockey game yesterday, he was hitting absolutely everything in sight. Like, I counted about 3 really bone-crunching hits. And at one point, Jaden
the NHL counted 2, by the way.
I don't want you to be alone on an island here. I want to help you out, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to hit guys too. And so he started to support him in that role. But Guhle really set the tone. Last night's game was a difficult game because the Canadiens spent a large portion of their day on Sunday traveling from Colorado back to Montreal. They get in. They're obviously tired from the road trip. They have a bunch of things to do. They have a bunch of errands to run. They're back home. They're back with their families. And you know what? If they would have not been at 100% to start the game, you could understand it. Kaiden Guhle wanted to make sure that everyone was ready to play that game, and he wanted to lead the charge, and he did. The guy's a leader. You saw it again last night. And if he adds this element to his game more so, with more consistency, it's going to make him an even more effective hockey player.
Listen, I have no way of proving it, and I can be completely wrong about this, but I'm telling you right now that if Kaiden Guhle doesn't step up and make that hit 46 seconds into the game, I don't know if the Canadiens win that game. I'm telling you, the energy that gave the entire group and the tone that it set, that, like, we're not going to use anything as an excuse. We're going to go out and take this game against a desperate Canucks team.
He was acknowledged in the locker room at the end of the game, by the way. I don't know if you saw the clip.
Oh, yeah. I saw it. And I went around. That was my belief, right? So I went around asking players in the room, to what degree did Kaiden set the tone for this game? And all of them said that he did, obviously. And just that hit, they would have a million, forget about excuses or reasons to pack it in or this or that. Just physically, when you are tired, mentally you start to slip, and that's where mistakes come in and you lose. And that hit didn't just set the tone for the game. It kicked in the mental awareness that had to be there for the whole team, because he turned that game into a playoff style game, throwing that hit.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence that Struble was throwing the body. I can't believe Guhle was only credited with 2 hits in last night's game, by the way.
Yeah, he had more than that.
He had more than that. Him and Struble had between them 6 hits in the first period. and they were just crushing guys. I even put up a tweet saying they looked like Hawk and Animal out there from the old wrestling days.
The Road Warriors.
Yeah, the Road
Animal and Hawk. I remember
I was
them.
choosing between them, Demolition, the Bushwhackers. I didn't think they were too goofy, so I was going with Animal and Hawk.
The Road Warriors were a lot more nasty than those other guys, yeah.
You know, you want to know to what degree that hit made a difference. And St. Louis, like, I don't think he got I think he was tired by the end of the night. He didn't really get my question. He started talking about sports science and Alex Case and the team services. Because I didn't have a strong enough clip from St. Louis on how important that one action was, because he was talking about it's not just one action that makes the difference, and it's the way we played in our identity. But if you don't get as mentally engaged as you can be in a game, it's pretty hard to get to that identity that's been so consistent for the Canadiens. So, like, I just that hit to me was such a huge element of that win. And if you want to know to what degree it made the difference, go back and watch the clip of Yoel Armia in the game, because Yoel Armia is not known for throwing his body around. He is known for protecting pucks. He is known for extending cycles, offensive zone time, and recently incredible penalty killing and, you know, great cycling and all that stuff. He was throwing hits last night. Like, he threw one major hit in the neutral zone last night. And I think it's just there's a contagion element of what Goalie did in creating that atmosphere for the game. And that's exactly what the Canadiens would have needed after playing their third game in 4 nights, and with the travel schedule.
Yeah.
Absurd. So you can't minimize what Goalie did here. It was very, very impressive last night.
I think it was you that asked Marty St. Louis about where his team found the energy with that long road trip. Was it you, right?
Well, my question was, I heard what you had to say in French, Marty, about not, one action and this and that not making the difference, that it's all the little actions and it's all the team and this and that. But, like, to what extent did that hit from Goalie bring your team into the headspace they needed to be in? And I think Marty was tired, and I didn't frame the question particularly well because it was long-winded.
Okay, I got it. Yeah,
we all have those issues, and he gave a whole song and dance about Alex Case, whose team services, and
I had my fair share of those. But let's hear Marty. Let's hear from Marty.
Sure.
Puck drops. Nobody cares how much you traveled. Nobody cares like what's your record. You just gotta go and do it all over again. Some nights are easier than other, but I gotta say that, we've been very calculated, with when we travel, how, we stayed in Colorado. We didn't travel that night. We came back last night, yesterday afternoon. We didn't come to the rink today, so we're trying to be very calculated in how we can give ourselves the best chance to have the most energy. It doesn't guarantee we're going to have it, but we feel that, we have the science and the technology to help us make decisions for what's best for the group and our energy. And I feel like we've done a very good job. And obviously there's things you can't control in terms of, if there's a malfunction on the plane, you're going to be late, and you're going to be held back. But honestly, it's been very smooth this last trip, and I got to give it to Alex Case because he's going to appreciate that. We were able to get to Colorado at a decent time from Chicago, with all things considered, and we had good energy there, you see the schedule come out early in the season, and you're trying to be calculated and trying to build it and stuff, and to make sure your team has the best chance to have energy, because when the puck drops, nobody cares.
So, Tony, I'm not taking anything away from Alex Case, because he's got to coordinate the travel, right? But the guy who makes those decisions naturally, and we're talking about sports science and those calculations that Marty's talking about, is Dale LeBlance, who's their trainer, their physical trainer, the guy who takes care of the gym, the guy who blasts Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel after every win that the team has out of the gym. And this guy, he's a quiet, behind-the-scenes guy who really minds his own business and does everything. But he's been a fantastic addition to the team since he's come in here. And I think, you hear everybody laugh when Marty mentions Alex Case, because Alex Case is a guy who doesn't like the limelight either, but he likes he can bust chops with the best of them. And I think there's a great atmosphere with the Canadiens with guys like him and Ramsey, who came in as the
Jim Ramsey
medical trainer. So you just have all these guys. I think you heard Chantal laugh audibly at that.
Heard that.
There's I said to Marty, how much did Kaser pay you to mention him in your post game scrum? Like, just jokingly, right? Because it's just this guy, he would never look for this type of limelight or anything like that. But a guy who doesn't really get mentioned, doesn't get a lot of credit out there is Dale. And Dale does a great job with these guys.
All right. Before we get to some more clips from Marty, a shout out to Betway. Go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. Offers only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And please play responsibly. Cole Caufield took a penalty last night that a lot of people didn't like. I would imagine his coach didn't like it. I would imagine Cole didn't like it. And one viewer in particular called in to the Habs post game on the Sick podcast last night and said, Cole Caufield has to be taking a page out of Lane Hutson's book, and he's got to be a little bit more humble. Lane Hutson would never take a penalty like that. He was really upset with Cole Caufield. Marty St. Louis was asked about that penalty. Here's his answer en français.
Qui prend beaucoup de punitions. Je demande à Cole beaucoup de s'impliquer physiquement. Puis il fait ça. Puis c'était une mise en échec contre un gros monsieur qui s'est fait frapper, c'était assez haut. Fait que je comprends sa frustration. Si Cole il aurait l'opportunité de retourner dans le temps, il ne le referait pas, ça. Mais on a une place dans un match où c'est difficile d'y faire payer le prix à ce moment-là. Parce que ça serait facile pour Cole de juste scorer des buts, être à l'extérieur, puis pas s'impliquer physiquement. Puis comment qu'on lui demande de jouer, c'est beaucoup plus dur. Fait qu'il y a eu une action en soir qu'il aimerait ça revoir, mais je trouvais pas que c'était le moment d'y donner une leçon, genre.
All right. Marty St. Louis says, look, I asked Cole Caufield to play physically, and he's done that. And if he could go back and take away that action that led to that penalty, I'm sure he would. But it's once again, it's a teachable moment. It's a learning moment. Mm-hmm. And he said, could I have taught him a lesson? I could have. I didn't think it was the right time to do so. But once again, he reiterated, I'm asking him to be physical. He is. I can understand his reaction, even though rather he didn't. But once again, he reiterated, if Cole could go back in time, I'm sure he'd take it back.
Yeah, honestly, it was a great explanation for a situation that I think a lot of people would have looked at and said, like, why is he getting back on the ice? I think the explanation is perfectly valid. Cole Caufield has played 245 games in the NHL. He has 22 minor penalties.
Mm-hmm.
He has 7 minor penalties this year. This is not a player that ever does what you saw him do last night.
No, he doesn't. No.
And he's right. And Cole said himself afterwards that was an inexcusable penalty that he took.
Yeah.
But in a 4-4 hockey game, when you know you'll have other opportunities to get that goal back, pretty sure you want Caufield on the ice as a part of it. I think he did assist on the winner, if I'm not mistaken. So all is well that ends well. If he was a penalty taking religiously, if he was a player religiously taking bad penalties, we might be having a different discussion, especially even if he still had that star status that he has.
Yeah.
So I don't really have any issues with it.
All right. Let's hear Marty St. Louis on Kirby Dach turning it around.
Well, for me, I talk to the individual the way I probably talk to the team as well, is you got to stay in the present. There's nothing you can do about the past, and the future is not there yet. So focus in the present. And that's what, I think when you do that, if you're capable of doing that, I think you stay in a better place mentally. And I think he's doing that. And obviously in the present right now is really good for him. So don't worry about, what happened at the beginning of the season, and don't stress about what's coming. Just stay the course. And I think, like I say to the team, you do ordinary thing over and over, you respect the rules of the game, there's usually some good stuff on the other side of that. And I think that's what he's doing.
All right, there you have it. Kirby Dach, I brought this up, and defensively, it's not perfect. You take a look at the road trip. You take a look at, he obviously had his best game of the season in Florida when he scored those 2 goals. In Vegas, he scores the game-winning goal, but prior to that, he's on the ice for both goals against, and there's probably some missed assignments there. One of them was a turnover that led to the puck going the other way, and the other one was him not picking up Noah Hannafin when it probably should have been his guy. And, there was a couple of mishaps. Defensively speaking. They happened in Chicago as well. He didn't have a great game in Chicago versus his former team, but he's scoring goals. Goals, and he scored another big goal last night for the Canadiens again last night. And you know what? We can give his defensive game time. I want Kirby Dach to put up offensive numbers now. I want him to start producing. He's been doing just that in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, the underlying numbers were pretty healthy in last night's game against Vancouver, right? Like him, Alex Newhook, and whoever was rotating onto that wing, they were absolutely dominant at 5-on-5. I said this to you at the beginning of December that the next 12 months in Kirby Dach's career will be the most determinant with the Montreal Canadiens. His future will be determined within these 12 months, and a lot of it is within his own control. Over the first month of those 12, I think he's put himself one foot in front of the other here. I think he's taken a small step, but a meaningful step towards getting back to the player that we saw when there was a lot of promise held within the player before that knee injury. If he can get all the way back to being that player between now and the end of this season, whether it ends in the beginning of April or the middle of April or the end of April or in June, just kidding. Don't get too excited. No, but if he can get back to that player between now and the end of the regular season, let's see if he can take it to another level come September. But if nothing changes and there's inconsistency between now and next December, his future with the Montreal Canadiens won't be very long, I don't think. But I'm a big believer that the step that we've already seen him take in the first of those 12 months,
it's encouraging now.
It should take him, provided he remains healthy, to the place that he would like to get to, that the Canadiens would like to see him get to.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't take him all the way there, then they're going to have tough decisions to make on whether or not he's the right guy for them or whether or not he's right for this market, or it's a situation that's in flux. It will move up and down, but good first step through that first month.
What are you hearing about Liney?
He's sick, and he's not the only one, by the way. There's some guys that are playing sick right now. That's for sure. And that's only normal with the schedule the Canadiens have had recently. I don't think it's just the players. I think there's people all over the organization that have probably been through what you and I have over the last couple of weeks. I just got off a treatment of antibiotics.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not feeling unbelievable, but I definitely feel better than I did over the last couple of weeks. But it's that time of year, and it's not just the Habs. It's go through all the teams that get to this time of year, and running all over the place. It just happens. And whatever hit Laine must have been serious enough for him to miss a couple games here. But I suspect that coming up to Friday, he should be good to go.
Yeah.
If he's injured, they would tell you. If he was injured, they would tell you. David Savard is injured. He's not sick. They told you. They might not tell you what's wrong with him. I believe that. I'm not going to sit here and say there's something mysterious and sketchy about the whole thing. Let's wait and see what happens as the Canadiens resume practice. They do have tomorrow's practice is an off practice, so we'll see if Laine gets on the ice for that. I think rest is a top priority right now. They will obviously practice Thursday before leaving for Washington Friday. Another crazy back-to-back here, and
Friday in Washington on Friday, and home versus Dallas on Saturday. And by the way, prior to tonight's games, if the season would have been over last night at like midnight, and I know the Canadiens, we're talking about them having a wild card spot, but the fact of the matter is that Ottawa last night was 1 point behind the Canadiens with 2 games in hand. But anyway, let's just say the season would have ended last night. The Canadiens would have made the playoffs. It's Washington that they would face. So they go up against the Washington Capitals on Friday, who the Canadiens had a 2-0 lead against the Capitals, if you recall, several weeks ago in Montreal, and Washington stormed back and won by a score of 42. It was a good hockey game, and the Canadiens were in the game. It was a real good hockey game. Look, we know that Dobish is going to get one and Montembeault is going to get one. I'm curious to see who's going to get which one. Dobish hasn't played a game at the Bell Center yet.
I would be surprised if it wasn't Dobish playing the next game and then Montembeault on Saturday.
That's the way I think it's going to go down, too.
I don't know why there was such a scuttlebutt about Dobish playing Monday against Vancouver. That was never going to happen. People need to chill. Sam Montembeault is the number 1 goalie for the Canadiens. I hope people don't forget that through 2 starts of Jacob Dobish's career.
He is, because like you said, he's a much bigger sample size, and Jacob Dobish is a small sample size. But Dobish is going to push Montembeault. And
good. Better.
Yeah.
But listen, on those 2 games, and I'm not taking anything away from Dobish because the confidence he exuded made a big difference for the team that was playing in front of him. But the first one, the Canadiens allowed 5 high-danger shot attempts against Florida and shut them out 4-0.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were making your NHL debut as a goaltender and you had a team play that way in front of you, you'd feel pretty good about that.
I hear
in the game in Colorado,
yeah,
fantastic in the shootout. Some clutch saves at key moments.
Yeah.
You can't take a single thing away from the guy.
No.
He played really well. The Canadiens were the better team for the second period, the third period, overtime, and the shootout. And then the first period, they survived. They were outshot 8-4, but they survived.
He didn't give an opening in the shootout. He was unbelievable.
He's lucky he only had to take 2 shots, too. Especially against that talented team.
Yeah, good for him. Anyway, it's an exciting time in Montreal right now because, once again, I said this earlier this morning on radio, but as much as there's a certain sector who are kind of hoping that, the rebuild continues, and if the Canadiens should falter and the Canadiens should lose their majority of games, and should the Canadiens get another top 5 pick, they're going to be happy because a lot of people think the Canadiens don't have enough talent still, or they could always use a more talented prospect and all that stuff. But we have to admit that it's fun to see the Montreal Canadiens winning as much as they have been winning over the last couple of weeks, and seeing them in a wild card spot. It's fun.
Not just that. A rebuild is not just based on getting top 5 picks. It is based on the development of your young talent, and your young talent has to be able to thrive in an environment where they're able to actually grow. And as much as they grew through those losses at the beginning of the season, like I said before, that growth is being accelerated through this period that's happening right now. And people are excited about Lane Hutson, and they're excited about Kaiden Guhle, and they should be, because you're seeing that acceleration happen with those 2 players. You hope that it follows with Slavkovsky, that he builds on a good. Honestly, man, like some of the things people say about Slavkovsky watching a game, okay, like it's almost like they're wearing blinders and only see the bad things that he does.
I thought he was good yesterday. I thought Slavkovsky was good
yesterday. He had 4 plays with the puck in yesterday's game where he made absolutely the wrong decision. He also had 4 plays that should have led to assists on top of the one that he notched on Caufield's goal.
Yeah.
It's not all bad. The kid is on pace for close to 50 points this year, like he had last year. Everyone take a breath. He's going to be okay. He's got to figure it out.
He's got to up his implication level.
He's got to figure out. I think the main thing with Juraj Slavkovsky, honestly, is he needs to figure out. I think I don't want to say he has an identity crisis. I don't think it's quite that severe. I just feel he's a player that knows he has a lot of skill. I don't know if he gets enough credit for the level of skill that he actually has. But that skill will really come out more if he does some of those things that you saw in last night's game by getting his feet going, implicating himself physically in certain areas of the ice, making a simple play coming up the ice. If he does those things and puts those as the primary actions, that skill is going to shine through in the areas where he can really score goals. And if I were Juraj Slavkovsky, I would be looking at Ivan Demidov coming and saying, this kid is going to be maybe the best playmaker on this team, on a team that has Lane Hutson and Nick Suzuki. And I could be the beneficiary of that if I stick to the things that will bring my skill out. Yeah. Because he can be a legitimate and probably will be, elite power forward in this league. He's not going to be the best playmaker on the Montreal Canadiens, and he makes a lot of good plays. So if he puts himself in those positions, Tony, by doing those other things that he needs to focus on, that skill is going to shine out.
Well, if Demidov shows us in the National Hockey League what he's been showing us in the KHL so far, he's going to end up taking Slavkovsky's spot on that line with Suzuki and Caufield. So
he'll be the guy setting him up for the goals.
He'll be the guy setting out for the goals. It's something that we're obviously going to pay attention to. And in the meantime, we're going to continue to follow the Montreal Canadiens, and we'll be back with the Sick Podcast tomorrow night, weeknights at 10 p.m. Eric Engels, thanks so much, my man. Special thanks to all of you, and special thanks to all of our sponsors. And once again, Energy Transportation Group is one. Bittt at Tibi is another. Playground is another. Betway is another. And once again, thank you very much. If you like the podcast tonight, leave us a 5-star review on Apple. It's our way of feeling the love for Shane Gaumont and Master Control. Thanks so much, Shane. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaBita.tb, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.